My mom is a huge believer in the ultimate Christmas dinner. I know many people across the country and the world do magnificent holiday meals on the night of Christmas. Welcome to Meals with Maria. Today I am bringing you a Christmas dinner meal, the ultimate Christmas dinner inspired by Christmases of my youth. My mom would always make us a delicious leg of lamb and some sides that I will never forget. I'll admit that in past years I have just done appetizers and she has looked a little disappointed as I served apps for our Christmas dinner. So I'm wondering if I need to bring it back. Either way, I was able to serve my family and my kids a delicious Christmas dinner reminiscent of my past, and I'm happy to share it with you. These are just some great recipes for Christmas dinner inspiration that I'm hoping you can use on your table during this holiday season.
Well, appetizers on their own are not considered the ultimate Christmas dinner. The ultimate dinner does include appetizers. So we're going to start off with a spinach dip tree. This is really fantastic, enough so that my kids have asked for it multiple times since then. So you just want to start off with a pizza dough. You do need the pizza dough from Pillsbury. I have tried actually making this with like a regular pizza dough. It does not turn out the same, so it has to be very specifically that Pillsbury pizza dough. And you can buy one and you'll have enough to make one tree. Here I'm actually using two just because being lazy and quick, and I had to, so that was easier for me. I'm just going to use a pizza cutter and cut it into the triangle shape of a tree. And then if you're using just one dough, you want to use the triangles from the other side and actually create one more triangle to put on top when you're done putting your dip on. But because I had extra, I just ended up trying to make a star. It didn't work out that great. So the whole star part of it, I wouldn't even try that hard. It's not really worth it. But you do want that tree shape. So you just peel those sides away, and then I'm just going to cover the entire tree shape, that triangle, in store-bought spinach dip. I have seen recipes where you make your own spinach dip, but I just don't think it's necessary. The store-bought stuff tasted really good. I think this is like the Cedars brand, so whatever you can get or whatever your favorite spinach dip should work, or if you want to make your own, I'll put a recipe down in the description box for you to do that as well. And then you just want to cover that up with either the combination of the two leftover triangles or another pizza dough. And if you're using the other pizza dough, just cut off the sides, and we're going to be left with one big triangle shape. And then you want to take your pizza cutter, or if you're using a regular knife, that's going to be fine too. And we're going to cut each side so that there's like a trunk left in the middle of the tree. So you just want to slice that into strips all the way up to the top of the tree. And then you're just going to twist these equally on each side. And you'll see I did end up having to kind of go back through and cut maybe like a little bit deeper into each of the strips so that the trunk was smaller, because you really don't want it to be too thick, because you're going to be kind of pulling off those pieces of the tree, and you want to make sure that they're nice and long and you're getting plenty of food. And this is super forgiving, so you don't need to be a pastry chef to make it. Like, it doesn't really matter how perfectly they're twisted or whatever. Just try your best, and it's going to taste delicious no matter what. And then I'm just covering this with an egg wash. That will help to give it like a golden brown color when it comes out of the oven. And you want to bake it at 400 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes. And next up, while that's cooking, I'm going to make my Crabbies. These are another classic Christmas dessert that I grew up with. Comment below if you've had these before. I feel like they're just like a classic in my household, but I don't know that everyone has tried them. So I'm making half the recipe today. I'm starting with half a stick of softened butter, 1/2 a jar of Old English cheese. That's why you see the Old English cheese at the grocery store this time of year. It is a classic for this recipe and maybe some others, but that's definitely what I use it for. Then you want 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and about 4 ounces of lump crab meat. Now, I only had pink crab meat. It wasn't my favorite way to make it, but you can make it with whatever crab meat that you do have. And then you're also going to want about a teaspoon of mayonnaise. You just want to mix everything together really well. And this is actually a good make-ahead recipe. Like, I've made this ahead and then refrigerated it and taken out a little bit ahead before and then put it onto my English muffins like on Christmas Day. So you could always make it like Christmas Eve and then put the mixture on top of the English muffins on Christmas Day. And that kind of helps. Or like if you're having a party, it's really helpful as well. I'm just like looking, I'm like, do I need new pans or what? Like, this is a real YouTube channel here. I think I need to invest. What's going on? Hey, it's just real life. It's what I have. It's like growing up, right? Who doesn't have a pan like this? And then you want to cover the English muffins. I have 3 here because it's half the recipe, but it will make a full 6 if you make the whole thing in that mixture. And then we're going to bake these at 350 degrees for about 12 minutes. And this all worked out perfectly because by the time the Crabbies went in, the pizza came out and it was golden and perfect. And you can see I did put a little star on top there and it came out like okay, but it's really not necessary. I did decide to let this cool down while those Crabbies were cooking, and we're going to get our lamb started so that can go in right after. Timing is always up to you on a dinner like this, but I kind of, it depends on how long it's going to take for the lamb to roast, but I figured we would do our appetizers much, much earlier so that we'd have time to digest and we would actually be hungry by the time the dinner came. So for the leg of lamb recipe, I kind of just did my own thing based off of what I remember my mother doing growing up. For me, the flavors in a leg of lamb should be garlic and rosemary. So I put about 3 tablespoons of salt into a measuring cup with about a half a teaspoon of pepper, and I'm just chopping up about 2 tablespoons of fresh rosemary, and that's probably like 9 cloves of garlic because you really can't go wrong with too much garlic or too much rosemary when it comes to lamb. And then I'm putting all of that into that measuring cup with about a 1/4 cup of olive oil. For this, it's not going to matter how big your leg of lamb is. You just want to mix all that up, and we're just basically going to slather that leg of lamb in this. Now, I have a bone-in leg, so we are going to cover it all up. And then once my Crabbies come out, I'm going to put my oven to 425 degrees. And then in a roasting pan, I'm going to place this on top of a bed of garlic cloves and rosemary sprigs. And we're going to bake this at that 425 degree temperature for 15 minutes. Then we're going to reduce the heat to 350 and bake it until it hits an internal temperature of 130 to 35 degrees. That took about 90 minutes for me. My leg of lamb was about 6 pounds. And then the Crabbies come out. You do want to wait for them to cool off just a little bit. And then I'm going to slice mine into quarters. It's interesting. Some recipes say to slice them into quarters before you cook them. I like to do it after. So I guess it's just personal preference. And of course, you got to give it a taste just to make sure that it's delicious. And I promise you, these are, if you have not tried them, you really should. They're so buttery, so delicious, and such a nice holiday treat. And there is going to be one more step when it comes to the tree. As long as you use a nice baking mat or parchment paper, the tree should slide right off. And I like to serve it on a nice cutting board like this just because it looks all pretty. And we're just going to slather it in some butter, Parmesan cheese, garlic powder, and Italian seasoning. This really ups the game on anything that has pizza crust or crescent roll dough, anything like that. If you put a mixture like this on it, it's just going to make it better. It certainly isn't going to make it worse. And it gives it that nice shine. Like it looks like, oh my goodness, I need to try that, right? And it was so delicious. Like I said, my kids were asked for it multiple times since then, and we're probably going to have it at Christmas as well.
A 100 out of 100. Did you eat all of it?
There's some left. You want some?
He is too funny, always cracking me up. We have bacon wrapped green beans as one of the sides, so it's going to get started on those once we had our appetizers and we were kind of closer to the dinner time. I'm cooking 4 to 6 slices of bacon. I think I only cooked 4, but you should do 6. You want to cook them until they're slightly cooked but not crispy, so we're kind of like par cooking this right now. Then add 1.5 pounds of green beans to a pot of boiling water with a half a teaspoon of baking soda. And we're just going to cook these for about 3 minutes until tender/crisp. They're going to be not fully cooked, but they are going to be kind of par cooked just like our bacon. And then drain those off. And then I have my 4 slices of bacon. Like I said, I would probably do 6 next time. I don't know why I only made 4. And you really want to reserve the drippings from that bacon. We're actually going to mix our green beans in those drippings, and it's going to give it a ton of flavor. To the drippings, add a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, a sprinkle of salt and pepper, and then we're going to pour that right into those green beans and make sure that they are well covered. In a small bowl, combine 1 tablespoon of brown sugar and 1 tablespoon of water, and then we're going to set that aside as well. Slice each of your pieces of bacon in half. And then you're going to need some toothpicks. You're going to grab little bundles of green beans. It says 6 to 8, but I probably did a few more than that. And then you're going to actually kind of like tie that together with a toothpick with the bacon wrapped right around it, and it makes an adorable little bundle. So yes, you're definitely going to get your hands in there. So if you want to wear gloves, go ahead. I don't mind. It was just for my family, and I had freshly washed hands. But just try and squeeze as many green beans in there as you can. Wrap that in the bacon, and then we're going to brush it with that brown sugar mixture. and roast those at 375 degrees for 20 to 22 minutes. So what I did was I actually put them all on a baking sheet ahead of time. My lamb wasn't done yet, but when my lamb did finish, I was able to lower my heat, or actually increase it because it was at 350. Increase the heat and then put the green beans in while the lamb rested. So that's a nice thing about making a roast at a holiday time, is that when you take it out, very similar to a turkey, you can then throw in all the things that you need to put in the oven. So same type of thing with these guys, these Parmesan roasted potatoes. These are a viral TikTok recipe, and I figured this would be the perfect time to try it. You want to start with 1 stick of butter. I'm just putting it in the bottom of a 13 by 9 pan, and while my lamb is still in the oven, I'm just going to pop that right in there and actually melt the butter in the pan while the lamb is roasting. That should take about 10 minutes. In a small bowl, mix a 1/3 cup of Parmesan cheese, a teaspoon of kosher salt, a sprinkle of black pepper, and about a couple teaspoons of Italian seasoning. And then you do want to use small potatoes for this. So I have baby reds, but you could use baby Yukon Golds as well. And then we're just going to score them or cross hatch them, right? So it's almost like a tic-tac-toe board with your potatoes. And you don't want to go too deep. Like, you don't want them to be completely cut in half, but maybe like 3/4 of the way down. And just do the best you can with this. It's not really going to make it or break it. Just want to make sure that we can really get that Parmesan and all the flavor kind of in between the pieces of the potato, and it really does make it delicious. Once your butter is melted, pour your Parmesan mixture right into the bottom of the pan, and it's really going to make like a paste, so it's going to be quite thick. And then you're going to put all of your potatoes face down or flat side down in the pan, and we are going to bake this when the time is right at 425 degrees for about 25 minutes. So there was a little bit of a discrepancy between the potatoes here and the green bean bundles. So the green bean bundles are supposed to be 375 and these were supposed to be 425. So a lot of times when I have an issue like this, I will kind of compromise, and we will bring down the cooking time for one and up the cooking time for the other. So what I did here was I cooked this all at 400 degrees once my lamb came out of the oven. And I allowed the potatoes go for a little bit longer, maybe like 30 minutes. And I allowed the green beans to go for a little bit shorter of time, maybe cutting off a few minutes on one side, maybe like 20 minutes instead of 25. And this really tends to work. I know it's not like a perfect science because you don't necessarily want to cook something at a higher temperature that really shouldn't be cooked. But if you're bringing it up 25 degrees or bringing it down 25 degrees, it's not like a whole 100 degrees or a whole 50 degrees. It's really kind of in the middle. It's a compromise. And sometimes when you're cooking a meal like this, you just have to do that. So be able to be flexible and be able to watch things. Like it just matters to pay attention to how it's cooking. And, you know, a fancy chef may be like, no way, you can't do that. And you know what? I don't care. I've never had trouble with it. So as long as you watch it and you make sure that it's comfortable for you, go ahead and do it. All right, I've been yakking away as my lamb came out of the oven, and we are making easy garlic Parmesan knots. So you can buy like a baguette and just do that for bread on the side. You can make breadsticks, you could do garlic bread, but I figured I would try these little knots out, and they were totally delicious. So you just want 1 16-ounce tube of refrigerated buttermilk biscuits. These are like these little biscuits. They're so cute. And then you're just going to roll them into a long piece of dough and then tie them up like a little knot and place them on a baking sheet. You can see I'm using the same baking sheet that I used earlier for the tree because now I've been able to wash it off. You don't need like a ton of equipment to make a meal like this, and you don't even need to be able to make dough. You can just buy, this was so cheap. I think it was like a little over $1 to buy this little can of dough, and I felt like I was doing something like special, you know, something different. And then for the garlic Parmesan topping, you want 1/4 cup of butter melted, 2 tablespoons of freshly grated, or this is even freshly grated, this is just regular Parmesan cheese, 1/2 teaspoon of dried parsley, 1/2 teaspoon of dried oregano, and 3/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. And just want to give that a good mix, and we're going to top our garlic knots with that. And luckily, these cook at 400 degrees. Bread's a little more finicky than the other things I was talking about, so when you are cooking bread, you do kind of want it to be at the right temperature. So 400 degrees for about 8 to 10 minutes until they are golden brown, fully cooked through. And then we're going to brush them with the remaining simmering garlic and Parmesan mixture, so you don't want to throw that away because it's going to go over the top after they're cooked as well. And then the leg of lamb had come out. It was perfectly cooked. I covered it and tented it for about 15 to 20 minutes, probably about 20 minutes, and just kind of waited for everything else to come out. And we can plate up all of our food, slice up the lamb. It's so nice to kind of have everything ready at the same time. I get that it is a little chaotic when you're making a dinner like this, but I feel like it's totally worth it, especially when you have everything kind of come out. At the same time, I had decided that the potatoes could stay in for a few extra minutes. Like I said, they were going to go for about 30 minutes instead. I don't really have any fancy lamb slicing tips or techniques. I don't really make it often enough. All I remember is, cut against the grain. So do the best you can. It's okay. I think lamb is pretty forgiving as far as the way that you cut it. It turned out absolutely delicious. And with a leg of lamb like this, I love to save the leftovers and make a shepherd's pie. You may have seen one of my shorts or one of my Instagram reels like that. If you don't follow me on Instagram, make sure to go on over there and do that. It's meals.withmaria. I'm putting up all sorts of fun reels similar to what I do with shorts on YouTube, but I feel like it's depends on how you want to consume your information, right? So if you want to consume the short form on Instagram and then the long form on YouTube, I totally get that. So go ahead and follow me over there. Plus the stories are fun because I share a lot more about what's going on with our family and just day-to-day life. And here are the green beans. They turned out so good. They were so perfect. I was so shocked and amazed. I loved it. And our TikTok potatoes were also, look at them. Oh my goodness, they're so delicious. They were so good. I would say that, and I don't know if it's because I didn't cook them at the 425, they weren't as crispy as TikTok kind of said that they would be, but the flavor, oh my goodness, they were to die for. We kept going back for more. I'm not even sure there were any leftovers, which is kind of scary because there's only 2 adults. The kids liked them too, so maybe they helped out with that, right? They were so good. And one thing I would say that is a game changer when it comes to a dinner like this is this big white platter. We got this for our wedding years ago. It is still in perfect shape, and they do sell them on Amazon, so I'll link it down in the description box if you're interested in getting one. I have used it time and time and time again. I'm telling you that it is a game changer. And it was time to enjoy the meal. Make sure to give this video a like if you think this table is beautiful.
Potatoes a 5 out of 5.
What do you think? What did you like about the meal?
I give Tommy's potatoes a 5 out of 5.
Tommy's potatoes.
Now you may have noticed I was not making an ultimate Christmas dessert along with this video. For us, the ultimate Christmas dessert is Christmas cookies. So go ahead and click on this next video to get your ultimate Christmas cookie guide and all the cookies you would need for an ultimate Christmas dinner. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon.